What is going on back at Dave the Confused? Thank you so much for being here. It's Halloween. This is our time. This is where the Confused Army rises. First and foremost, I just want to give out a giant thank you to everybody that watched my last video, kind of discussing where I was for about 6-7 weeks, if not longer, and all my health issues. And the response that I got back from everybody was just literally incredible. I feel very loved. Thank you so much for everyone that commented and watched and subscribed. You guys are amazing. So it's Halloween season, so all I've been doing is watching scary movies, right? I'm sure you have been doing the same thing. You know, I watched both part 1 and 2 of the new It, watched Old School Pet Sematary, Nightmare Before Christmas, because my son is obsessed with that movie. So we've probably watched it 3 or 4 times a day for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I see Jack Skellington in my sleep. And of course movies like the original Halloween, the remake of Halloween, Trick or Treat. So there's these awesome Halloween movies, but there's a lot that you may not know of that are great for this season. And I got my cousin, you may know her as Jessii Vee. I know her as Jessii Vee. But we were discussing our favorite underrated horror movies that maybe you should be watching this season. And let's get into it. The first movie I want to talk about is a movie called Thinner, that's written by Stephen King. So a rough synopsis of the movie is a big fat lawyer ends up getting a curse on him by like a voodoo witch gypsy that he will continuously lose weight. Now at the beginning, he thought this was great because he was losing so much weight so quickly. He could eat whatever he wanted, could do whatever he did, and he was losing all this weight so fast. But then it got to a point where his body started to break down because he was losing so much weight so quickly. And it wouldn't stop no matter what he did. So it started to become a very dangerous game to play, and he tried to get the curse taken off him by starting almost like a war with this group of like voodoo witch gypsies that live on the outskirts of town. It's a really good movie. It's a really good revenge plot in this movie. It's not a jump scare type, it's more of like a thriller that really gets you to think about, if you were in this situation, what would you do and how would you feel? It's definitely a little bit of a mind crunch, but it's such a good movie. The script is awesome. There's a lot of, there's a couple big actors in it that you may recognize. It's just an overall really good thriller movie that I think you'd really enjoy if you check it out. And it's not too scary. It's not one to give you nightmares. But it's a good watch, 100%. Alright, and the moment you've all been waiting for, let's go to my cousin Jessii Vee and see her picks for best underrated horror movies you should be watching this season. Click!
Hey guys, it's Jessii Vee, and I'm so happy to be back here on Dave's channel. Today I'm going to be telling you guys some of my favorite underrated horror movies. These are horror movies that I don't really hear a lot of people talking about. I don't think they got enough hype. So I have 4 that I can think of off the top of my head that I think everyone should watch. The first movie is called Coherence. This is an indie horror movie that came out back in 2013. And it's basically about this group of friends who are going to a dinner party. And during the night of this dinner party, a huge comet is passing by overhead, and this comet just causes a lot of very weird things to happen throughout the night. People start acting differently, weird things begin to happen. I find this movie is almost more of a sci-fi horror movie, and all of these events take place just in one night at this dinner party. It's so entertaining, it's so interesting. I was so hooked watching the entire movie. You definitely need to see it. The next underrated horror movie is called Honeymoon. This movie came out back in 2014. And it actually stars Rose Leslie, who is a main character in Game of Thrones. But it's basically about this couple who are on their honeymoon and they decide to go to one of their family's old cabins in the woods. And during the night, she keeps sleepwalking and her husband keeps finding her like in the middle of the forest. And one particular night when she returns from sleepwalking, she starts to act very different. And her husband notices this about her and he thinks she's some sort of like other creature who isn't his wife. This is one of the eeriest movies I've ever seen, especially because I love cabins in the woods, I love going camping, I love being in the forest, and after this movie, I don't know guys. The next movie I want to mention is called Backcountry, and this also came out back in 2014. This is about a couple who decide to go camping in the middle of the woods, and when they get there, they realize they forgot their phones and they're completely lost in the middle of this forest. Now, while they're trying to find their way back, they start being stalked by this man-eating bear, and the whole entire movie is them trying to escape this bear while it literally follows them everywhere. Now, just to warn you, this movie is a lot. It's very gruesome, it's very hard to watch, but it's one of those bear films that they do so well, and I can't even tell you guys, you need to watch it for yourself. But I also think it's one of those movies where you just watch it once in your life and you're good. And lastly, I want to talk about the movie Frozen, which came out in 2010, and no, I don't mean the Disney Frozen movie. This is a horror movie about a ski lift, which I know probably sounds so weird and boring, but trust me, it's not. So it's about this group of friends who go up in a ski lift after hours, and they end up getting stuck up there, and they're up there for about like 2 days. So the whole movie is about them trying to get down from this ski lift. There's like wolves running around all over the place. It's a really good winter thriller movie that you guys should check out. Anyways though guys, those are the 4 underrated horror movies that I think you should definitely check out, especially for Halloween. And thank you Dave for having me back on your channel. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Bye!
Big thank you to Jessii Vee for being in the video and dropping some knowledge on Halloween videos that you should be watching. My final pick is probably one of like the corniest, weirdest movies I've ever seen. But it's so funny and so good. Now this movie is an R-rated, I believe. So please keep that in mind if you do go and check it out. Ginger Snaps, which is about a high school misfit that actually becomes a werewolf. And at first, her and her sister think this is like this crazy thing that she's a werewolf. But the hunger and bloodlust sets in and it starts to get really freaky. And one sister kind of goes out of control. And it's up to the other sister to kind of pull her back to reality and try to fix this mess that they're now in with like the bloodlust and the want to feed. And you know, there's that teen angst where if you're not popular in school and you're always like, oh, what I would do if, you know, I could get away with it. Well, these girls come up with that situation and it's just insane. So Ginger Snaps is one of my picks. But those are my picks for underrated horror movies that you should be watching this season that are, I think, are awesome. And if you trust my judgment, you should go watch them. Well, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Remember, we have merch, Confused Army and Dave to Confuse merch. Please go check it out. They're the greatest shirts I've ever seen. They're the best shirts I've ever seen in my whole life. And I've been here for over 30 years, so let that sink in. Well, till next time, thank you so much. I'm Dave, still confused, and at least our dogs aren't werewolves. Peace!